Thanks a lot. First, very happy to be here all. I hope you're happy to be here. I don't know if it's your first time out of your house or out of your company in the last 2 years. So I'm very excited to be here. I hope we're all feeling good and no coughs and nothing. So thanks for having us here. We're going to talk today about user acquisition. You know, I've been in the industry since 2005, and we're in a whole, I don't remember the last 2 years in the industry. I mean, such crazy 2 years with everything that's going on with Apple and all the changes, and of course COVID and privacy rules. So I think we got here the best experts we can from all type of industries in the app marketing and the app industry. So if it's okay, I would like to, each one of you could just a few words, who you are, what you are, and one more thing. One app that you found out in COVID that these days you can't live without it. But an app that that we don't all know, not like Netflix or something like that. So a new app or preferred app that you found out the last year or two and you can't live without.
Hi guys, my name is George. My company is named Air Apps. It's a very cool company consisting of different apps of productivity and utility. The cool stuff within my company is that we are beating the Apple on its territory. So our Apple has the same apps that and it's super excited and super challenging for us to beat them at their territory. Except my job, I also have different other side projects and also my show, 3 Minutes Bullshit with George. So check that out. So regarding the favorite app, that I have. To be honest, I don't know. It depends of occasion, but one of the favorite app that I have is my banking app. Whenever I receive the money from my customers, you know, and it's a joke, guys. So another like it depends on occasion. And whenever I go, I'm in Barcelona, so whenever I go the city by car, I need my parking app. Whenever I'm in Berlin or in Moscow, I'm using some food apps or whatever. Yeah. That's it.
It depends wherever you are at the same moment. You have a different favorite app depending where you are and when you are.
Exactly, man.
Got
and
it. Great
depends
answer.
on occasion as well, yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot, George.
Elena?
Yeah, hello. I'm Lena. I work for the company that's called Spark Networks as a senior performance marketing manager focusing on the app user acquisition. I've been with the company for soon to be 3 years, and the app that I discovered in the last year that I quite like is probably Volt. For food delivery, I try not to use it too much, but I really, really like the design and the functionalities of the app. It's super sleek and looks very smart.
Thanks.
Cool. All right, I'll
Luke.
go next. So yeah, I'm Luke. I'm Senior Growth Marketer at Project A Ventures. We're an operational VC based here in Berlin. So we invest in companies and then support them to grow by doing marketing strategy and operations with them. And the app that I have discovered in the last year that has been really useful is called Bimble, not to be mistaken with Bumble.
Bimble.
My girlfriend is legitimately in the room. Yeah, Bimble is basically a food mapping tool where you can make maps of your favorite restaurants or bars or whatever for certain areas and then share them. It's like a food discovery social network. And it's really small.
Globally? Do they work globally? Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Great tip.
I thought I'd go with a really small one, and I resisted using any from my portfolio. So yeah.
So you have Georgian foods on the map, no?
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks.
Hi everyone, it's really great to be here. I'm Radustina. I'm currently with Voodoo since very recently, the last 3 months. Voodoo is a developer and publisher of gaming apps and just general apps. We have a great portfolio of over 100 apps with more than 5 billion downloads since the company launched, and currently with over 300 million monthly active users. So my job is acquiring some of these users. And for favorite app, I'm not going to lie, I was playing a lot of Tuscany Viewer during the pandemic. I stopped But I'm spending a lot of time on Instagram, so nothing really like super boring. Everyone, I guess, is there. But yeah.
Great. Thanks. So since you ended, I'll start with you.
Sure.
So Voodoo is a very known gaming company, been in the industry for a long time. I know them pretty well. The last year has been crazy in the gaming industry. On one side, it's booming, the industry's booming. The other side, it's being very hard. First, you're running semi-blind with what's going on. A lot of companies with the iOS 14 changes on top. How are you coping? What are you doing? How are you coping user acquisition? Also looking forward, I mean, how are you coping with this?
Yeah, I mean, I believe we all here operate in a very competitive and highly saturated market. So it's the struggle is for all of us. But it is true that during the pandemic, a lot of the gaming companies saw like increased engagement rates. People were just bored at home and they were playing games. And this was actually a really nice time for gaming apps, especially the first and the second wave. However, you do have so many out there. So for us, like one way we are approaching UA and like just trying to combat all the competition is having a very central role of creative. This has been really true before the iOS 14, but I have the feeling now with the changes that it brought, with everything that happened and the fact that we don't really have that much visibility, targeting options, there are a lot of type of campaigns that you can't anymore run. Creative really became even more important. So for us, we are trying to test and develop many like a big number of creatives on a weekly basis. We try to stay on top of the social trends as well, and just implement them within our creatives. Like one social trend that was very popular recently, for instance, I guess everyone knows the Squid Games. There were so many games that actually were launched that were representing this series, and a lot of creatives that you could see that had different elements. And of course, the challenge is to actually be the first one to hop on the wave, because after that, it just becomes one of the many, and the impact that you might gain with this won't be that big.
And you have an internal studio, I believe, in order to generate all these creatives. I mean, you do all the production internally?
Yeah, we have a great team of marketing artists and developers that are constantly working on different concepts, and we are testing a great number of creatives on a weekly basis. And it does really makes a difference. I mean, if you have a great creative, it really performs, it helps you lower the cost per acquisition, which this is something that is really important for us. It depends what is your product, of course, but I mean, if the creative is good, it should also bring you good ROAS, and the performance should follow.
Great, thank you. Luke, well, you're in a special spot in the industry. You're seeing all types of companies. You're seeing startups, pre-seed, or in any stage there is. So you're seeing a lot of everything. Looking forward, as a guy that's mastering the market and sees all types of companies, what do you see is going to affect, looking forward to 2022, what changes? I mean, how this is going to affect young startups or companies with everything that's going on?
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting this year because a lot of the things that we're seeing change and people need to develop are things that everyone's kind of pushed back. They said, you know, we'll do that next year. We need time to focus on other topics. And I think it's affected the small companies and the big companies very differently. So in the small companies case, you know, maybe they're only running one channel. So it doesn't, the kind of viewability and trackability impacts of you know, iOS 14 Plus haven't really affected them so much in that regard, because the conversions that they're getting are all coming from that source, basically. But for the bigger companies, it's been really challenging, because in those companies, they really want to understand how incremental each channel is, how impactful it is, and they want to be able to fit it into you know, a complicated model, and it's kind of thrown a slight spanner in the works for some of those businesses. So I think what's been a major focus, in addition to creative, as Radostina mentioned, has been like the technical side, has been, you know, moving into server to server, moving into web to app, have both been really big advantages to bring back some of the visibility that we'd lost before. And I think that's going to continue next year. And I think as Google starts to look to make changes as well, I think that's just going to affect more and more companies. So I think it means for us, we're recommending even the early stage companies to start thinking about those parts of the journey even earlier, to start thinking about how to get that data, how to have their own in-house reporting so they don't have to rely on the channels themselves. And that's been really effective.
Great. Do you think companies today, in order to launch a new company, establish a new, do you think I need more money? I mean, do we need more money or just to be a lot smarter?
I think...
And different.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting because some of the companies we work with are so small, really early pre-seed companies or seed companies where the team is, literally a handful of people, like 4 or 5 people in a room. And I am regularly mind blown by what they're able to achieve with such a tiny team and with actually quite small amounts of money. It is, as you said, it's just about being smart. It's about prioritizing which things you want to invest in at what time. And I think it's shifted which things those prioritizations are. I think companies are bringing in data at an earlier stage. That's becoming a much bigger play to really start to understand not only their advertising, but also their product and also their users a lot better. So I think that's becoming an earlier investment in the kind of company maturity. And also to start thinking about alternative journeys. I think 2 years ago or something, it was basically just Spotify that was doing web to app to get around Apple's payments. And now I think it's something that really every app company has to start thinking about, potentially even within the first year. And that doesn't require necessarily more money. It just requires thinking about that and prioritizing it earlier and getting support where you need it from, you can talk to other companies that have already done it. I think we have a very good community of people that share knowledge, today being a good example. And so I think you can really have those conversations and easily understand, is it something that you need? And also, how can you do it most easily?
Great. Thanks. Interesting. Lena, so actually you're in I think it is super interesting, all of you, but you're specific in a super interesting industry. The last 2 years, dating was, let's say, changed, okay? All the dating apps. Give us some tips. I mean, how do you do user acquisition and marketing in general? If it's proximity, meaning if it's all this security that I need to know who I'm gonna match to and with. I mean, give us some. How do you see it in your world? What's different?
Yeah, we're quite special, I would say, as the dating industry in general in terms of user acquisition. We've always been dependent on the quality of user acquisition has always been dependent on the proximity of users. So basically, the more users we have somewhere concentrated in one big city, the higher is the probability that they're going to match. And then the higher is the probability that they would be happy with the product, they would be happy to pay for the product, for the subscription, and for whatever additional features are out there. That's one of the things that wasn't really obvious to me before I joined the company. But that's a very vivid specific of dating in general. And another thing is our dependency on the demographics of the users. So we do user acquisition, there would be volume, there would be return on ad spend. And we really have to balance out the volume and the ROAS by balancing the demographics of users that we acquire. And the demographic part, well, a very simple example would be that, at least for our apps, that would be the case that male users monetize much better, and they bring us higher return on ad spend. However, we cannot really focus only on male users, and we have to tweak our campaigns to acquire female users to keep the balance on the platform, and same goes for age as well. And with iOS 14.5 change, for instance, the demographic part, those signals that we used to receive from different platforms, they are basically gone. Well, except for Apple Search Ads, there you can still target the gender and age. And with that in mind, we're actually keeping a mix of things. We are very lucky to be able to grow with Apple Search Ads, so we don't really hit that much of a ceiling when we advertise with Apple Search, I'm not talking about branded traffic, I'm talking about the generics. And here, that's the part probably that used to be with us and that's going to stay in 2022. And for the other channels, what I see quite interesting that paid social channels and networks, more or less networks, but at least paid social channels, they would be more on the same plate or in the same situation. For example, before, we would definitely go for Facebook because we know we have so many signals and it works for us historically. And now everyone's back to ground zero, which is quite exciting.
Wow,
I guess,
interesting.
yeah.
One more question I have about that. The pandemic is with us for almost 2 years. We had Zoomed. We were originally in Israel, and we found out that from the second wave, we identified, we have a lot of delivery companies and customers, and we identified that based on the waves, you can see a big boom and spikes in all kinds of types of apps in the last 2 years. Israel was one of the first in the rounds, in the waves every time, so it helped us get new business a lot of times. What do you see changes? I mean, are there any changes through the waves in the pandemic? I mean, when a wave is coming to Germany or the UK, do you see a spike? Do you see less? Do you see more? Could you identify? This is interesting to me.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So we've been hit by the pandemic, but you might take a guess, in a positive or in a negative way.
I don't know. I've been dating for 7 years. I don't date, so I don't know.
So in a positive way, in the very beginning, it wasn't obvious. So we were all sitting out there and thinking, like, people are not allowed to meet.
Yeah.
Like, are not recommended to meet in person. Yeah.
Do they use Zoom or Google Hangouts for initial meeting or not?
I think they might. I mean, we don't really.
Great feature,
control
George. Yeah,
the
to have
users.
Zoom embedded in all these dating apps for face-to-face, virtual, great. Yeah. Metaverse, maybe
checking.
metaverse next. I don't know. Yeah.
So yeah, we saw a huge spike then as a result of the pandemic and lockdowns, and basically it's coming and going in waves. The stricter the lockdown is somewhere, then the more people are likely to use apps to meet people and to feel less lonely, which makes sense. And these waves are going differently in different countries. Like you're saying, in Israel, they would be probably different compared to France.
Totally,
because you
yeah.
guys are one step ahead.
It gives us AI abilities, human AI abilities to know what's going on next. Totally. Thanks. George, so you're a publisher, you develop all types of apps. I know that you had issues with apps that couldn't implement types of SDKs, and they could not use their IDFAs because of everything that's going on. What do? I understand you have all kinds of solutions for that. You found out the best way.
Yeah, man. I was working one of the Kids apps, and in Kids apps there was like very complicated situation because before IDFA removal, we faced the stuff that based on update guidelines of Apple, we were not allowed to use SDK. Yeah, so when Apple announced that, yeah, okay, you can't use SDK, but on top, we will not allow you to use IDFA. We got a really challenging situation that we got totally blind, yeah? And our main share was traffic was coming and monetization coming, of course, for iOS users mainly because originally they have a high rate of monetization and it's higher. And what was very challenging for us is that to find out the solution, yeah, what we can do in this situation. And actually we find out the solution. The solution was we implemented a scan campaign primarily for campaign optimization, and we improved the media mix modeling, improving and launching the special incrementality projects, and on top of that, blended value, using blended value for budgeting optimization. Yeah, and that's actually works. And two more stuff that we did was One was, of course, push creatives to get most out of it, because creative is very important in this case that we are blind. And another stuff what we use was, of course, as I mentioned before, incrementality and blended value. Yeah, for
Incrementality.
and also trying to pushing alternative channels, even the crazy ones that we never tried, and some of them was actually surprisingly positively.
Like what?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's it.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. So, I have a question to you, Radostina. To all of you, actually. We've been in the last year at Zoom. We saw budgets are moving. Okay. We have a product that connects all social channels together, but we see the budgets are moving from Facebook. Not that I have something against Facebook, but from Facebook to other channels a lot of times. When you're looking forward, okay, for the upcoming year, 2022, are your budgets changing in general first? That's one. And second, what are the splits inside the budgets? I mean, is channel 1 going to plan getting more than channel 2? Who's going to get hit? Who's going to get the budgets of the one that got hit? How do you see it looking forward?
Well, at Voodoo, we are very agile, so we don't plan that much ahead. If we see something working, we push, and obviously we have the capability to scale up a channel as much as it allows us in terms of performance. So we are very flexible, and we're constantly trying to test new channels, test new campaign setup, and basically move the needle. I do see a lot of, like with the iOS 14, I do see a lot of changes in the media mix. I think it really depends on the company. In our case, and like based on my experience, what I can say is that for us, like Facebook on iOS still works. I know that a lot of people switch.
Still works the same?
It still works pretty well, yeah. But it's very challenging, for instance, if you have several social channels on iOS, and then you try to judge what's the quality and where it's coming from. And it gets even more complicated if you have a big chunk of organics on top of that. So it would really depend on what kind of product you are working with. In our case, organics are not that big part, and I think like a strategy, for instance, that I see working is having one social channel, one main social channel on iOS that you could control better and just take educated guesses, because obviously what we're looking at is blended ROAS, blended eCPI, and then making changes and observing the overall. So if you really like working with very precise data, I guess a lot of people, especially UI managers, are that type of people. With iOS 14, I guess they don't feel comfortable anymore, because you need to feel a little bit with your gut feeling and go with like the overall and just make educated.
A bit like a gambler, maybe. You're ready to put the money.
Yeah, definitely. But that was one thing. I saw also a lot of people, I do see the CPMs on Facebook, for instance, on Android, that they went up since the iOS 14. And it's like something, what I see, something around 20 to 30% more than iOS.
Increase.
Which for me, increase. Which for me is a very clear sign that a lot of people switched and pushed on Android. So competition there is very high, right? And even if you have like great creatives, you need to have even better creatives on Android to compensate because of the CPMs. And it's actually great time now to leverage on iOS, Facebook, and really make the best out of it. For instance, it's ongoing. Like we're doing ongoing tests because things change. Our industry is very fast-paced, and if something worked a month ago, it might not work anymore, and the other way around. And the companies are evolving them, improving their algorithms as well. They're constantly learning, and this is great. So our strategy is just testing and whatever works.
I still want one name that you think next year is going to get more from you. What do you think? Your gut feeling. What channel or what media? Is there one that you think that already by your gut feeling that next year is going to get more, or you're willing to try more? One media channel?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, we do have a good mix of like social, search, DSP. So maybe like something that I'm really up to trying is like pre-installs.
Pre-installs.
Yeah,
Got
and more like multi-event incentivized campaigns as well.
Okay.
But that's been something that has been around already this year. I guess like my guess for like overall is that a lot of people will be pushing more on Apple search ads, especially
Great.
now that their attribution improved and performance is great.
Conveniently.
Thanks. Lena, I'll ask you the same question. Where you're looking towards next year, what do you think is going to change? Who's going to get more? Who's going to get less? Regarding you, not the industry, but from your 2021, how's 2022 looking?
I would agree with Radostina regarding Apple search ads, and I definitely see us as one of the companies who's going to leverage more capabilities. I could probably bet on the fact that Apple's going to release more new placements, new campaign types in the new year to come, and then the iOS 15 changes with different landing pages on the App Store. That's going to make a difference as well. I think that that'll be competitive, but if the ground is already set, I'm quite sure that we'll try to grow from there. As for Android, same trend that we see this year with the high CPMs, more competition, so people are going to invest on Android, yet the return on ad spend, the performance may be a bit tricky. An interesting thing to mention, at least for me, that would be very, very exciting to see how all the paid social channels and in the first place, and also the programmatic channels are going to turn out. That will be on the investment side for us too. And with paid social, I really see that the split would be more equal, and compared to 2021 or 2020 or before, we would really look into even in the spend between Facebook and let's say TikTok, trying out Snapchat, because everyone is in the same situation right now.
Yeah.
And at least on TikTok, we saw that the SKN data that's coming in is much more detailed and is much more tailored towards optimizations by UA managers than, let's say, with Facebook, which is really pretty much work in progress. So I would say that for the channel, like same question that you asked Radostina before, for the channel that would see an uplift, I would actually nominate TikTok.
TikTok. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what we're seeing too, I must say. We're seeing and feeling, but it takes more, from what we're seeing in TikTok is that you need more patience, but it's taking more time to succeed there. It's not like Facebook, you put your X amount of dollars once and you could see results. We're seeing on TikTok that results are coming, but you need to creative is a main factor in TikTok we're seeing. You have to update a lot, that's first. We call it factory of creatives. I mean, really, you have to have your own factory for creatives there. And you need more time, more patience, and the results will come. But you really need to know what you're doing in TikTok. But that's what we're seeing and feeling too. Thanks. George, you're developing and you're on the dev side and tech side. Looking forward, what kind of new tech stack? I mean, technology is starting to get, if it's automation, if it's pushes, I mean, looking forward, what kind of new technologies do you see are going to come to our life a lot more in apps in 2022?
Yeah, good question, man. Because the guys that like what mentioned, it's a more classic way to move forward with paid user
Automation.
acquisition. Yeah. In terms of like what else you can do? Yeah, on top you can do some alternative channels that I mentioned, and one of the good channels might be web-to-web campaign. Of course, it depends on the verticals. Yeah, if you are a game, of course, for Radostina is not the case because mostly in game like people want to get experience now. as soon as possible. Yeah, for apps for non-game apps is different. Yeah? Web-to-web campaign is really good and has been beneficial. So there are like several points why you can use you can try to use the web-to-web campaign. First of all, of course, initially why other apps try, and it's I think not the main point, but it might be the point that you can avoid the fees that you pay for App Store for your subscribers. Yeah, it's free actually. Another point is that it's allow you to do A/B testing and to get a more granular data. You can create the landing page and develop for specific keyword search that is not possible anymore for Google user acquisition campaign. Yeah, you can protect your brand. You can, I don't know, you can track easily your users, which is not allowed anymore for app campaigns. Also, you can unlock new or potential big networks where app campaigns doesn't work. For instance, Pinterest, whenever there was like IDFA removal, they remove app ads, and they are advertising only from a landing page. Yeah? For instance, also another big channels that app campaigns are not presented are like, for instance, Taboola or Outbrain, and through landing page you can...
For performance, would you?
Yeah, exactly, for performance. So you can, through landing page, open these channels and networks, and this network has a huge audience. Yeah? So imagine you can get new incrementality stuff, just trying the alternative channels like a web-to-web campaign. But it's not easy, yeah, to launch, because there are like two main issues. First of all, you are dealing with web users, and they are a bit different. Yes, yeah. They in most cases they don't want to convert in app. So people are stick for web, and it's different user experience. So it's very hard to crack it. Another point that coming out, it's whenever you do web to app, it's you put additional step, yeah, between
another click,
another click, and and it might cause a huge drop off, yeah. And to compensate that, you have to do some special campaigns. Maybe you can do your subscription cheaper. Yeah, versus the original way to attract new people, to attract people to acquire through this channel, yeah, etc. Yeah, and it's very exciting, and many apps already tried, especially in health apps, language learning apps. Who else? Audiobook apps as well, and some of them are super successful. Yeah, not all verticals, of course, but at least you have to try. Yeah? And another like my advice is to push, as I mentioned, creatives. Yeah, so if you have a cool creatives, you can just adjust in a channel, and it's gonna work in 90% of other channels. Yeah. You can just adjust text, adjust format, etc. But it's gonna be a winner. Yeah, this is my kind of advice for that.
Thanks, Luke. To you also, you're looking forward. Tech stack or the companies, new technologies companies are looking for, or you even think will need looking forward.
Yeah, I think as Georgie said, the web to app piece is going to be huge. I also think that like the incrementality testing topic is going to become bigger and bigger. Like this year, more than ever before, it's something that we've been discussing with a lot of the companies to really understand the impact. Especially the more mature companies are really wanting to understand, okay, how incremental is actually the money that we're spending on these channels, especially when you're losing a lot of the visibility. And I think one kind of workaround that some of the companies are going to look at doing is going to be doing actually influencer, which is not something I imagine myself saying, but actually doing influencer across, boosted across the paid social channels. And we see a lot of companies doing that really successfully. And the really nice thing about it is, obviously, you have the authenticity side that influencer networks, et cetera, are always recommending. But on the other hand, you normally have some kind of code or offer that comes with the influencer. and that means that you can track that as kind of a backup to your normal reporting. So I think that's going to be something that companies start to look into. But yeah, the combination of the three, the incrementality, the web to app, and then the alternative methods of measuring results, I think they're going to be really interesting for the year to come.
Great. Thanks. I have a question to you. We were all talking about, you are all talking, and me too, of course, but about creatives and going maybe a bit higher in the funnel. Now, that's already more marketing, more the brand, the CMO, not the performance. How does this work together? User acquisition and performance on the side of the brand marketer or the CMO. I mean, it's two divisions working together. I mean, it's something that once performance, you did your performance creatives, and you ran. But now that you have to go a bit higher in the funnel, you're a bit blind, it's a little bit more branding. How does this work together for you?
Yeah, I mean, it is still branding, that's true, but like at the end of the day, you're acquiring real people that look into real videos, and they have, I mean, it does make a difference what you're presenting and how you're presenting yourself, and with that, like logically, performance follows. I mean, what we, in our case, is maybe like easier because we're looking a lot into IPMs, conversion rates, CPI. So these are the first indicators for us that the creative is good. So users, what they see, it's appealing enough for them to click, and of course, like. Once you know your user base, like what is your target user base, you're trying to tweak your creatives in a way that it's appealing to them, right? If you're looking into more older users, then you have a different messaging or different style compared to like a younger one, where you could go more with influencers, with TikTokers, like some more crazy ideas that might work well. I mean, we've seen surprising results. It's always about testing, and then once we evaluate in terms of a very early metrics, so basically how converting this creative is, then we start looking into retention rate and ROAS, and as I'm also surprised saying this, but I believe that Facebook algorithm is smart enough to also know which creative to pick up. Funny enough. I mean, this has been working, or at least what I've seen. And normally, whatever performs on Facebook performs on other channels, with very few exceptions, of course, but like just talking on a general level. And that's the approach that we are having at the moment.
Thanks. Lena, you have a lot of brands. You're a group of brands. How many brands do you have?
We have
more or less
8.
8. Okay, so it's 8 dating brands, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 8 dating brands. Because of everything that we've talked about here, when you're looking forward, are you going to spend more money on branding next year? I mean, do you see the importance of branding now that you're less, that we're semi-blind and everything that's going on? I mean, is the company going to invest more in branding?
Yes, definitely. That I can surely confirm. And I also have to say that we ran a few offline campaigns and had a way to measure the results for those offline branded campaigns. There would be TV commercials, radio commercials. Now it would probably also go in the online world with the podcast ads and everything connected TV. Has to offer, but it's still a bit of untapped area. Regarding branding, for sure, because we really believe it would make a difference for the users, and our apps are niche. There would be 50+ dating or Christian dating as a couple of examples. So we really want to focus on those channels where we could find and retain that audience, where we can reach to them. That could be also some partnerships. That direction, yes.
Great. What we call brand performance. That you're doing branding, but you're looking at performance at the end. James, are these questions latest from now? I mean, I see we have some questions from. One question. Okay, so I'll wrap it up. So, it just changed over there. Okay, so what is your method to track installs of users that I'm reading it now? I don't know if this was monitored. The questions. Okay, so one moment, I need to read them. Okay. Okay. Okay, so when operating and scaling Party Blind, which tools are you using for incrementality testing?
I can jump
Sure.
into that
Whoever
one.
knows the answer to that, jump in and answer.
I think obviously the first step is to use the in-channel incrementality testing, just to get a first kind of feeling for where you are. So I think that already suggests certain channels that are able to do that. After that, you can start looking at some of the tool providers. I know some startups are using things like Incremental. I haven't had any experience with that myself, but what we're also looking into is in-housing the incrementality process. So looking at setting up geotests and things like that. And that's been really interesting to see what impact you can actually judge certain channels on, because I think certain channels are really underrepresented and then certain ones are overrepresented. And I think that leads to the decision that for a lot of companies, Facebook has maybe been getting too much of the marketing share. And that also you find some channels actually are really overperforming and really redistributing that. So I think, yeah, incrementality testing, I really hope that some tools come along that make that a much easier process, and so that it gets more widely adopted, because I think with the companies that we've seen do it, it's been really impactful.
Totally agree with you, Luke, that you have to start in-house, try to different geos, try to different approaches, and then move forward with agency. Because nowadays, I don't know, maybe there are super advanced tools, incremental tools, but me personally, I didn't find any. Yeah? So the best way, based on my experience working with companies, are that try in-house using your divisions like data science divisions. Try to do a proper job in advance to set up the process, and try to not to get insights from only one geos. Yeah, because the behavior is different. Also, the share of networks are different per geos. Move forward and don't stop the process. It shall be ongoing. It shouldn't be only one wave, but it shall be at least several waves to see if there is a seasonality, to see if there is anything else on top. Yeah, that disturbs your insights or disturbs of your results, and to do different waves within even one geos to get some valuable insights. What's going on? Yeah.
Thanks. Do you have anything to add to the question, Lena? Okay. James, we're done? Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. I hope.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.